Alright, I've given you guys my list for the top 10 best movies of 2018. Now we get into the polar opposite. That's right, now it's time for me to give you guys my list for the top 10 worst movies of 2018. I gotta say, 2018 definitely gave us some really big stinkers. A lot of shitty movies, a lot of big disappointments. Now again, before I get into my list, gotta make some quick points for you guys. Number one, again, I didn't see every movie that came out in 2018, but I'm not gonna apologize for that here, because if it means I avoided a shitty movie that I had to spend my money on, hey, that's a win for me. And point number two, and this is the big one I want to stress with you guys, if you liked any of the movies that I have on this list, if you enjoyed any of the movies that are on this list, there is nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that you have to hate these movies. I'm not saying that if you like these movies, you're an idiot. As I said in my top 10 best list, this is a time of year where I can be completely biased and subjective, and these were the movies that I personally hated for one reason or another. Alright, with that being said, I got my kill board laid out in front of me. Let's butcher some pieces of shit. Number 10 was definitely one of the biggest letdowns of the whole year, and that was Venom. Kind of went back and forth between Venom and Solo: A Star Wars Story over which movie should be number 10 on my worst list. Ultimately, Solo had a few more good things going for it than Venom did, so Venom gets the number 10 slot. The movie has a couple good things going for it, namely the bromance between Eddie Brock and Venom. But really, all this movie feels like to me is just wasted potential. Riz Ahmed as Riot, definitely one of the worst villains I've seen in pretty much any superhero movie. He was not memorable in the slightest. The movie has an extremely slow build-up that tries to get you to care about Eddie's personal life, you know, the people he's involved with, the people he knows, but you don't give a shit for any character outside of Eddie Brock. The action in this movie isn't as exciting as I would want it to be, and ultimately the movie feels so held back because they decided to make it PG-13 and not R like it should have been. I swear on my life, if that Carnage sequel is rated PG-13, I'm gonna actually lose my shit. Number 9 for me is officially the death of a franchise, and that is Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. The original Jurassic Park from 1993 is my all-time favorite movie, so I will be the first to admit I am definitely a tougher critic towards these movies than maybe some people are, but you can really pick this movie apart in pretty much every sense of the word. Chris Pratt is the only likable human character throughout this movie. I say throughout this movie because at some point there could be characters that you're starting to warm up to, starting to like, but then they do something so incomprehensibly dumb or stupid or bad that just makes you lose faith in them entirely. The movie has absolutely no originality going for it whatsoever. It starts out with dinosaurs being transported to another island. We've seen that before. Then it brings in another genetically modified hybrid. Guess what? We saw that in the last fucking movie. The plot just chugs along with a bunch of characters doing dumb, illogical, incomprehensibly stupid shit that gets a bunch of people killed. And the ending of this movie just pissed me off to no end. All it is set up for a third movie in this Jurassic World reboot trilogy. All I want is one great sequel for Jurassic Park. At this point, it looks like I'm just gonna have to settle for The Lost World because I'm done with this franchise. At number 8, we have another sequel to another classic sci-fi movie, and that's The Predator. Unlike Fallen Kingdom, which had at least one human character you could give a shit for, in this movie, I didn't give a shit for a single human character. The leading guy was just your generic action star. I didn't give a shit for him. His buddies, his mentally unstable military comrades, none of them I gave a shit for. Keegan-Michael Key provided a couple funny moments, but ultimately his character just annoyed the shit out of me. The movie illogically makes it out like there's this predator that came to Earth to try to save the human race, but then when it was on Earth, it decided to kill a bunch of human beings. Doesn't have any of the intensity or the kind of action that we know and love from the original Predator. Oh yeah, and it tried to make this autistic kid the reason behind why the Predators are coming to Earth, because they want to improve their evolution. Okay? And this movie also set up for a sequel that I'm really hoping doesn't happen. God, it's movies like this that make me miss the classics. Number 7 was the Independence Day resurgence of this year, and that was Pacific Rim Uprising. The first Pacific Rim is a lot like the first Independence Day. You know, it's an original movie, it's a fun movie, it's a great sci-fi, and then we got a sequel which was just nowhere close to the original. The kaiju have absolutely no role in this movie until the very, very end of it. The action scenes, they don't feel as grand scale as they did in the first Pacific Rim. I absolutely hated what they did with Charlie Day's character. After what they did with his character, I completely checked out of this movie. John Boyega does everything he can to try to save this movie, but it's just not enough. Sorry, Boyega, you were able to help save Star Wars? You can't help them all. I'm the biggest pussy when it comes to horror movies. Going into The Nun, I thought I was gonna have the crap scared out of me. But people, this movie did not have an effect on me. I really wasn't scared of this movie. That's when you know a horror movie fucked up bad. Every character in this movie was either stoic or complete G's. I mean, Frenchie, that dude just annoyed the shit out of me. All he is in this movie is some kind of comic relief that isn't even that good. That's even just it. There were a lot of moments in this movie that were really awkwardly funny or kind of like cringe funny, to the point where I was laughing at the movie more than I was scared of the movie at times. And the movie's clearly not trying to be a comedy horror, so that means the movie just fucked up. It has such an anticlimactic showdown. It's full of all those horror movie cliches of characters just doing stupid shit that makes the plot go on, results in people dying, results in spirits haunting them. It's another Conjuring spinoff that failed entirely. Maybe it's a sign they're officially milking it. Do any of you remember that Den of Thieves movie that came out at the very beginning of the year? Yeah, I don't remember much of it, but from what I do remember, it wasn't good. There's not a single character in this movie that I gave a shit for. The movie is a long, drawn-out plan about how they're gonna pull off this amazing heist. And then the heist, when it finally does happen, it's not intriguing, it's not intense, it doesn't have you white-knuckling it or anything like that. You don't care if the characters even pull it off. Oh, the movie tries to have some big twist at the end that, you know, makes you think, oh, holy shit, how'd that happen? What? No, I didn't care about this twist with this character because this movie had shitty character development and shitty storytelling. Thankfully, at least I was able to forget most of this movie. Number 4 is one of those movies that the more I think about it, the more pissed off I get. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Good God. The first Fantastic Beasts, it was a fine movie. It wasn't anything near the Harry Potter franchise, but it was enjoyable. This movie, though, the movie's called Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. The Fantastic Beasts had absolutely no role whatsoever in this movie. Jude Law and Johnny Depp were good in their roles, but the problem is neither of them were even in this movie for really much of it. So many characters in this movie are annoyed. So many of them are honestly kind of pieces of shit, so you don't really care for them. Like, literally, a lot of characters in this movie do some really fucked up shit. One of the characters literally killed her own brother. Like, is anyone gonna address that? Am I the only one who gives a shit for that? I didn't care for anyone in this movie. This movie could not recapture any of the magic that we know and love from the Harry Potter saga. Nagini was in this movie as a human being. Did she provide anything to this movie? Not at all. The movie's a really long, drawn-out, boring as fuck adventure that you don't give a shit for, that's just trying to set up for a third movie. I'm telling you right now, they could have cut this movie down to about 20 minutes of usable footage and storytelling, put it in that third movie that they want to make, and then you'd maybe have a 2-part saga that's actually pretty solid. J.K. Rowling, please go back to just writing books. I'm sorry, but you can't write movies. Number 3 is the movie that now has me convinced Bruce Willis is just mailing it in at this point. That's Death Wish. Once I found out Death Wish was a remake, I'm just like, oh, that's never a good sign. And yeah, this movie is further proof that remakes very rarely turn out well. I can get behind the story of Bruce Willis being this guy who wants revenge for his family, but the fact that the police in this movie are so stupid, have no idea how to do their job, can't track down these guys, meanwhile Bruce Willis, who has absolutely no experience with law enforcement or combat, is able to track these guys down immediately and kill them all. Yeah, overnight he becomes an expert detective and an expert shooter. What? The movie had a couple cool kill shots, but also had an extremely anticlimactic ending. It's a movie that really doesn't make much sense with a story that I didn't give a fuck for. I will say, when I saw Tomb Raider earlier this year, I thought it was at least a small step in the right direction for video game-based movies. Then I saw Rampage, and it took 2 giant steps backwards. Rampage is one of those movies you go into, it's like, it's probably gonna be terrible, but maybe, just maybe I'll be proven wrong. No, it really is just fucking terrible. Dwayne Johnson didn't give a shit to be in this movie at all. He's here solely to get a paycheck. He knows what his role is, so he just goes into this movie knowing exactly what he has to do. The 2 evil human characters are complete and total cartoons. The movie's literally just about these giant mutated animals that are eventually just gonna fight each other. The road to that, though, is boring as fuck. There's no substance for it whatsoever. And the final fight you think is gonna be some King Kong versus Godzilla level shit, but it's nothing like that. It's a final fight that does not make up for any of the bullshit you had to sit through during the movie. Hopefully one day they'll get video game-based movies right. This doesn't inspire confidence that's gonna happen anytime soon, though. And like I said, 2018 had some shitty movies for us. But there was only one movie this year that was completely unforgivable, absolutely horrendous, a complete cinematic abortion, a movie I went so far to call a cancer. My pick for the worst movie of 2018 is Mile 22. fuck this stupid movie. Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg, I know they work well together. I have seen them do it. How the hell does a movie like this end up being so fucking shit? The action in this movie is some of the worst filmed action I've seen in a very long time. Literally everything is just a jump cut to jump cut to jump cut, so none of the action even flows smoothly. None of it ever sucks you in. It's just very jarring to watch. Shaky cam action throughout your movie is action movie fail 101. There's not a single character in this movie that was even remotely likable. Mark Wahlberg's character was just a dick. Ronda Rousey's in this movie. She does absolutely nothing at all for it. The movie's only an hour and a half long. It's so boring and so drawn out. It feels like 3 hours long. It's literally an escort mission from point A to point B where you don't give a shit for anyone at the time, and then the movie tries to hit you at the end with a very big twist, like there's gonna be this big franchise going for it. I really hope this doesn't turn into a franchise. I hope this just dies with one movie, because it shouldn't have even been one movie. Shitty characters, shitty action, a shitty story. There's literally nothing to like about this movie. There's not one forgivable quality in this movie whatsoever. I will never ever watch this movie again. Anyone ever tries to get me to watch this movie, I'll take their copy from them, set it on fire, burn it to hell, and then I'll piss on the ashes for good measure. And yep, there it is, you guys. That is my list for the top 10 worst movies of 2018. Not gonna lie, felt good to let off some steam. Now it is over to you guys. What did you think of my list? Did you hate these movies? Did you like any of these movies? And what were your top 10 worst movies of 2018? Even if you don't have 10, if you just have maybe a handful of movies that you hated, go ahead, let it out. It's gonna feel good, trust me. And also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.